divider. Um, Actually, I better start over again because my microphone wasn't working. So I'm going to start over again. Linda Limerick said she couldn't hear anything. So I'm going to start over again. Um, Hey, this is EB, Anything But Bland Weekly Update. It's been a couple weeks since I saw you. Um, I was in France. I went to Normandy with my wife, Renee, and my best friend, Danny Snellgrove, and his wife, Cindy Snellgrove. It was incredibly moving. It was one of the best vacations I've ever had. I learned so much about the Normandy invasion and the bravery of those young men. And we went to Paris, and I'll talk about that later. Obviously, the Charlie Kirk murder happened while I was gone, and it was a disgrace. Whether you believe in his politics, obviously he was responsible for a lot of younger people in college age and high schools getting involved in the political system and voting for President Trump and other Republicans in House races and in the Senate. And I'm sure, he has said some things that offended a number of people at many different times over the past 13 years. And if you were to ask him if he was alive, would he want to say it differently or take it back? I'm sure he would. I mean, I say stuff that I regret every single day. Wish I would say it differently. Wish I wouldn't have said it. Sometimes my mouth runs quicker than my brain and my common sense. But Charlie Kirk didn't need to be killed. Charlie Kirk should never have been killed. He was killed by somebody who was a former Mormon, who clearly was troubled, had leftist ideology beliefs, certainly lived with a young man who was in transition to be a woman, and I have a problem with him and her not calling the police immediately when she found out or he found out that Robertson, her roommate, was responsible for the killing. Charlie Kirk's wife is a beautiful woman, well spoken. She's going to be the new CEO of Turning Point and left behind some kids. But we have real problems in our country right now. We have real fundamental division in our country. And President Trump is using this killing as Democrats are as well to try to further their agenda. Remember, this is kind of funny because cancel culture was a huge thing to the Republicans when statues were being taken down of Robert E. Lee and other Civil War generals. People were being fired for speech. Elon Musk purchased Twitter so that he could control speech because he felt it was being too controlling by Facebook and by Twitter, and that political speech was being monitored too much. The Republicans agree historically that hate speech is something that should be protected. Remember, hate speech is okay, but speech that endangers the health, safety, and welfare of the public is not okay. What it means is that if you present a clear and present danger in what you're saying to people, and that's the United States Supreme Court Brandenburg case, I think in 1925, can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That's not protected First Amendment speech. Remember, First Amendment speech is government curtailing that speech, private companies. And we're going to talk about Jimmy Kimmel and ABC and Paramount and CBS for firing Colbert and all that. They can do whatever they want. You don't have First Amendment rights as an employee to say whatever you want. You don't have a right to say political speech or hate speech. You are in the employee's employment domain, and that is something that an employer can dictate to you. Clearly President Trump had a major problem with Jimmy Kimmel over the years, and we're going to talk about that. Certainly he has a problem with Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers, and certainly had a problem with Colbert. I just don't want the Republicans to think that this is all being done by Democrats. Remember, just a couple months ago, 2 Democratic legislatures in Minnesota were shot by right-wing people. Judges have been shot by right-wing people. A federal judge in New Jersey had her husband and son shot by right-wing people. It is a problem on both sides of the aisle. I'm not uh, uh, minimizing what happened to Charlie Kirk. It's a disgrace. I'm 63 years old. I have a 32-year-old daughter. I have a 30-year-old son, actually 31 and 29, same age as Charlie Kirk. So this could have been my child. Um, we have to figure something out. You can't have such thin skin as a politician that you can't take people mocking you or criticizing you. That is the rights that we have. Otherwise, you live in an autocracy. Otherwise, you live in a dictatorship where your speech is constantly being monitored, where there's in North Korea, recording devices in your house. Um, 3 officers were killed yesterday in central Pennsylvania, 2 others and critically injured who were delivering a warrant. Are you kidding me? We're shooting police officers who put their lives on the line every single day. We can't have this in our country. We, who would want to be a police officer? It's such a thankless job. You're making split-second decisions, and you're being condemned for those based on your training. Uh, Making a decision to shoot somebody in 1 second. If you don't, you're going to get shot, and then you're charged with murder. Um, Everything's gotten haywire in our country. Pam Bondi now, the Attorney General for the United States, is going to go after every leftist organization and try to shut them down, criminally charge them with RICO. That's what President Trump said. Look, Antifa, they're scumbags. I disagree with them 100%. Okay? They create property damage. They put police officers' lives at risk. Um, if they're doing that, they're presenting a clear and present danger. They are presenting themselves with jeopardizing the health, safety, and welfare of our country. Um, but it's a loosely tied organization. It's not, they don't have a leader, they don't have a central organization. Um, just as much as there's those type of people, there's the people that have their own nation, right wingers that say we want our own monetary supply, and they have their own deeds and say it came from the king, and they won't follow the government. Um, just remember that the FCC can't pull a license from ABC and NBC and CBS. They give local broadcasters licenses. But these companies are making economic decisions. Sinclair and Nexstar and Paramount, they have mergers that are going on that will require FCC approval. And yesterday you saw between the head of the FCC and an FCC commissioner, they were on 2 different sides of the issue. The one lady said the FCC can't pull licenses. The Brendan Carr, who's the head of the FCC, said we can. And so, you know, I you got to see it. I'm disappointed in ABC. I think President Trump's skin is way too thin at this point. He's on obviously a high with what happened in England. We'll talk about that at the state reception that he got. That was amazing. Look, he's the most powerful man in the world. He is the big dog. He's the alpha dog. Whether you like him or not, he is setting the table for every major thing that is going on in this world, whether it's TikTok that was congressionally said had to be disbanded, cannot be used in the United States. President Trump saying that it's now going to cut a deal and that he's not going to close them down. Whether it's dealing with the Israeli war, whether it's dealing with Russia and Ukraine, whether it's dealing with going after Venezuelan drug dealers, he is the alpha dog. And he is, I believe, the most consequential president in my lifetime. Consequential. I didn't say I agree with what he's doing all the time. Some of the things I do agree with may surprise you. But he is consequential. He is governing based on what he campaigned on and what his constituents want. I do not like cancel culture. I don't like it when the Democrats are doing it to rename Fort Bragg or takes the statues down. I just don't like it. This week, Trump went to England and went to treated as a head of state. It's the second time, only the second, never been done before that a president got a state reception. They laid out the red carpet for him. He went to Windsor Castle, the dining room that sat 125 people. He was driven around in a gold carriage. He had a great rapport with King Charles. He made some good comments about the collaborative effort between the United States and England. Certainly, King Charles talked about that. That we've come a long way since the Revolution of 1776. He said that he almost married into the Nixon family in the 70s. President Trump made some comments about Prince William and Kate, his wife, who looked just ravishing, and seemed to have slighted Prince Harry, no longer Prince Harry. Kelly Elliott just said we're living in an authoritative regime. We are. It is. Cabinet officials aren't doing their job. Certainly the Republicans in Congress are not fighting back against President Trump. We'll talk about the Kennedy issue, but it was a show of all shows. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of England, is really in trouble. When we were over in France, there were protests in France, and there were protests in England. Stormer's in trouble because his ambassador to the United States was very close with Epstein. He appointed him and clearly knew that there was a connection between this guy and Epstein. He was terminated. Stormer's having a real problem because he's a government pragmatist, the Labor Party. What we are seeing is throughout the world, countries want authoritative figures. They want a Donald Trump. They want nationalism. Europe, I was there. They're cursed by their open border policies. The amount of immigrants that were in Paris outnumbered the French. Their open borders has not worked. It was dangerous at times. We did not feel safe. Certainly felt safe on the coast in Normandy. But Keir Starmer announced that there's going to be a $350 billion AI. AI is so huge, and data storage. The problem is that it's never going to come to fruition because England doesn't have the electrical capacity to handle these big AI computer storage things. England felt, I guess, they were excited that there was only a 10% tariff put on them, and the European Union has a 25%, and they want to stay on Trump's good side. The monarchy in England is not what it was before. You saw all this opulence. Trump loved it. Melania looked amazing. Trump brought his daughter Tiffany and her husband. This is what Trump wants. He views himself as a king. And he's acting like one, and we're letting him act like one. And the people that support him want him to act like a king. We don't have a representative government anymore. It's not a compromised government. It's not where Congress holds the executive branch in check, or the Attorney General of the United States in check. We don't have that anymore. We literally have the executive branch being more powerful than the legislative branch and the judicial branch. They tried to play to Trump's better instincts, telling him how great he is and all the gifts that were given. I think it was great. I think he enjoyed it. It's the kind of stuff that he likes. But one of the things that they wanted to talk about, which I'm sure Keir Starmer did, was to make sure that the United States is still backing Ukraine. Trump did make a statement. Thank goodness that he said he's very disappointed in Putin, in what has taken place since they met in Alaska last month. Um, you know, the problem is now that the anti-immigration reform party, led by Trump's friend Nigel Farage, is leading in the polls, and they're going to shatter generations of labor conservative dominance at the next election. We have far right conservatives in Italy. We're going to have a in France. Macron's on the way out. I mean, when we were there, a prime minister got expelled from office. This was the third one in 12 months. Macron's ratings are paltry. He's going to lose. So we're going to have these big, dominant, authoritative figures governing, the major countries in this world, whether it's Erdogan in Turkey, or it's Kim Jong-un in North Korea, or it's Kim Xi in China, or Putin. We're going to have very powerful people that are more concerned about protecting their country than a coalition people. Trump, while he was in England, there was protests going on, major protests against him that you didn't see. They There were different things said about him, different photos, and at a conservative rally, Elon Musk appeared by satellite, and he said that a revolution should happen. So now we move on to what is really, I think, the most important issue today, which is what is going on at HHS with Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy said the CDC, the Center of Disease Control, is corrupt. He said that the CDC kills children. He says that vaccinations, the mumps, measles, and the other one, the 4M or whatever, and rubella, are not going to be given to children immediately, and that the hepatitis B, which is given to children immediately upon birth, is going to be waited till they're 4 years old. We are going to have the major health crisis in our country, ladies and gentlemen. Vaccinations are the most important thing that we have going on in our country to keep us healthy and safe. They do a great job. Bobby Kennedy says, well, we only have 20 cases of hepatitis B a year because we don't need the vaccination. Well, it's the vaccinations which only let us have 20 cases a year. I listened to the director that he fired from the CDC, which only a month before, who he went before the Senate with and said she has the most amazing credentials, and she was approved and then fired. She said if you take away the hepatitis B vaccine from children when they're born, we will have 20 to 25,000 children a year dying from hepatitis B. Bobby Kennedy has replaced the entire Vaccine Advisory Commission with people of his own who are not doctors, not all doctors, people who are anti-vaxxers. And what you're seeing is now Bobby Kennedy, who for years have said that vaccines have caused autism, now he's saying it's caused by Tylenol. Tylenol is causing the autism in conjunction with these vaccines. The guy just keeps changing his story. Bill Cassidy, it's on you, brother. You were the deciding vote in the Senate who confirmed him. He came to you. He said he wasn't going to be an anti-vaxxer, wasn't going to change the vaccine policy. Well, he's done it, and it's on your conscience. Bill Cassidy from Louisiana is a doctor. He specializes in liver issues, pro vaccine. He's in a tight race, re-election race. He's going to be primaried by a far right guy. So he's trying to, on one hand, be a doctor and talk about important vaccination issues, but on the other hand, he's a politician and wants to get reelected. Rand Paul, he's a doctor. He's a quack. Don't listen to a damn thing that guy says, okay? Listen to John Brassaro, who's another Republican, who is also The second, I think he's the majority whip under John Thune. He's a bright guy. Listen to him. He's also uh, pro-vaccine and not anti-vaccine. Um, so, Bill Cassidy, it's on you, brother. Um, Interest rates were finally cut. Laura Cook was not fired. An appellate court permitted her to vote. I'm not sure whether Trump's new pick for the Federal Reserve Board voted, but they voted to cut the interest rates a quarter point. Trump's guy did vote, but he voted against it because they wanted a more robust half a point or 1 point um, interest rate cut. So I think you're going to start seeing home building increase, land development increase. I think you're going to have 2 or 3 more interest rate cuts before the end of the year. There'll be a quarter point each time. Um, a judge ordered Muhammad Khalil um, to be deported to Syria or Algeria. He's that scumbag who created all the anti-Semitic protests on Columbia University and endangered a lot of students and prevented them from having a graduation. Um, Good riddance. Get rid of a guy like that. I watched Kash Patel before the Senate. Um, I think that these guys that go before the Senate, whether it's Kennedy or Patel, they are performing not for their organizations. They're performing for one man, and that is Donald Trump. Um, he was extremely combative with the Democratic senators. He spoke in demeaning words that I've never heard any cabinet official speak. Um, I was so disappointed when Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, endorsed Zohan Mandami. It's a disgrace. Mandami is going to kill New York City with high taxation. There's going to be businesses that are going to be leaving. The interesting thing is, I saw the head of the Democratic Party of New York quit because he would not endorse Mandami. Um, it's clear that Zohan's going to win the election. He's too far ahead. Um, Adams is not going to drop out. Curtis Sewa of the Guardian Angels isn't dropping out. And people are sick and tired of Cuomo. He's a joke too. He left his office in a disgrace. He's a sexual harasser. Uh, Lied about COVID and the deaths in the nursing home. Just a completely flawed political candidate. Um, it's going to be interesting to see whether um, Hakeem Jeffries, the Speaker, Minority Leader in the House, and Chuck Schumer, Minority Leader in the Senate, um, is going to endorse Mandami. Um, how about this? The EPA is no longer going to collect emissions data from polluters. They're no longer going to make the EPA go out. Lee Zeldin, who was a House member from New York, ran for governor and lost. He's the head of the EPA. They're not going to collect data from polluters. Polluters are free to pollute. We're going to have Love Canal in 10, 15 years. Um, this is, I don't understand where we're going. Vaccines have cured polio. We got through COVID because of the vaccines. Look, you're always, let me just say something bluntly, okay? When you have a vaccine, 10 or 15 people are going to die. You're not going to have 100% of people that are not going to die. But 10 or 15 people are going to die. And I hate it if it was me or my kids or my wife or whatever. I'd be pissed as hell. But 10 or 15 people will die to save the lives of millions of people, okay? That's what the situation is. And I don't want to live in a world where polio comes back, where measles comes back, where mumps comes back and rubella comes back. And I live in a Love Canal where the water supply is tainted and is hazardous to our health. Okay? Can we at least agree on that? Conservative. Do you know what the word conservative means? To conserve, to preserve. That's what it means. Um, The Tennessee governor welcomed Donald Trump sending the National Guard into Memphis, Tennessee. That is a red state. It's a blue city. They have the highest murder rate in the country. Um, he was going to go to Chicago, but the governor wasn't going to, Pritzker wasn't going to welcome him. He talked about going into New York City. So this is a losing issue for the Democrats. They can't win on this issue. It's safety. People will feel safer if they see National Guard in a city where there's a high crime area. The Democrats are just on the wrong side of many issues that they should support. They shouldn't just say no reflexively all the time. Um, Trump had a bad week in the courts this week. They uh, upheld his inability to deport people in a number of different courts, but most importantly, the civil judgment that Jean Carroll got against him for Trump allegedly assaulting her in Bergdorf Goodman in the 90s department store. $83 million in punitive damage, $5 million was upheld. Um, the Republicans did the dumbest thing in the world. South Korea is our ally, and they went into a Hyundai plant and they arrested 475 South Koreans who were here without the proper paperwork. Are you kidding me? Do we want Hyundai to leave the United States and go to another country? Look, this isn't illegal Mexicans in a Mexican restaurant or in a construction site or picking fruit. This is automobile manufacturing, which Trump wants. He wants all manufacturing to come back to the United States. Um, Unbelievable. The canary in the coal mine. Black unemployment is soaring for 4 straight months. That is a canary in the coal mine. That will tell you that service jobs are really shutting down, and we are seeing companies that are not hiring. The tariffs are starting to take effect. No, we're not having the rampant inflation that a lot of people predicted, but what you are having is companies making a decision we are not going to hire, and ultimately they're going to start raising consumer prices. Um, this is the third straight month of job loss in both construction and manufacturing. Um, Trump's pick to lead the Bureau of Labor Statistics ran a Twitter account where he made sexually degrading and bigoted attacks. That's going to come out when that person has to get Senate approval. We found out that there was a top secret SEAL Team 6 that went into North Korea in 2019. They tried to plant listening devices um, regarding Kim Jong Un's nuclear ambitions. Trump claims that he knew nothing about it, and this was the first time he heard about it. Bullshit, okay? You are not going into an enemy country like North Korea with the Navy SEALs Team 6 without the commander in chief saying, go ahead and do it. It's just 100% bullshit, okay? And somebody needs to call him out on it. Evidently, some fishermen saw the guys and they ended up killing everybody and got out. But that's a big, big thing that we learned about. Um, the Trump administration is going to abandon the Biden area. Pete Buttigieg's rules on compensating customers who are delayed in their flights or have their flights canceled. You're no longer going to get monetary compensation. Kamala Harris's book has come out, and she said that she would rather have picked Pete Buttigieg, but our country was not ready for a black woman who married a Jew, who then picked a running mate who was gay. She rather would have had him than the governor of Minnesota. And she also talked about that it was a mistake for Joe Biden to run. And you're also seeing a lot of people who are going before the Oversight Committee in Congress who worked in the Biden administration to saying that he had significant cognitive problems, and a number of people, including his chief of staff, Zizant, um, after the debacle of the debate said that he should be cognitively tested. Um, Kennedy now blames Tylenol. It's going to come out and not vaccines for autism. Um, Susan Menarez went before the Senate this week, and she warned senators that RFK is endangering the health and safety of our country, that he's the most dangerous, uninformed health leader that she has ever seen. Senator Markey, I forget his last name, it's either from South Dakota, lied and said that her meeting with Bobby Kennedy was recorded. Then he had to backtrack on it. We can't have senators actually telling lies in front of the American people in these kind of hearings. I think it's bullshit. Um, the Trump administration, get ready for this, is ending funding for pediatric brain cancer and the network where information is shared. I'll say that one more time. Trump administration is ending the funding for pediatric brain cancer. Are you freaking kidding me? Can we not cut everything? There are things that we need. Public health is the bellwether of a safe and prosperous nation. Um, Bill Cassidy finally came out, Senator Cassidy, and said that he no longer trusts the federal advisor panel on vaccines. And the beautiful thing is, even though the CDC isn't going to do all this, insurance companies said they will continue to cover routine vaccinations, even if the advisory panel tries to limit their use. Why? Because insurance companies believe if you are vaccinated, their cost that they're going to have to spend for sicknesses and illnesses will be far less. So good on these major insurance companies. Senator Cassidy, as I told you, is a liver specialist. And so he's finally, uh, I think, going to come out and come out against Bobby Kennedy. Um, how is it that Dr. Menarez, who goes from being a public health expert with unimpeachable scientific credentials, who had the full confidence of Secretary Kennedy, is now a liar and untrustworthy in 1 month? I think the answer is obvious. Dr. Menarez was fired because she refused to act as a rubber stamp to implement Secretary Kennedy's dangerous agenda. Um, she had to correct Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy actually came out, you ready, folks, and said this week that fetal debris are present in vaccine. Aborted fetal debris are present. She came out and said that is 100% false. It is true that fetal debris were used when you were coming up with the vaccination to determine can the vaccination cure mumps or measles. But the actual vaccinations that are used today do not contain fetal debris. Bobby Kennedy actually got out and said that. I mean, have we had enough of this nutbag? Have we had enough that his family has come out against him? A guy that had a lifelong cocaine problem, a guy that his family has disowned, who's made a living his entire life peddling conspiracy theories. This is the guy that's in charge of the health and safety of our country. Yeah, I agree. We have an unhealthy country. I'm all for what he's doing for food and food dyes and sodas and all that. That's great. Absolutely. Obesity is a major problem in our country, but vaccinations are not a problem in our country. Um, CDC advisors voted to recommend against the combo measles, mumps, rubella vaccine for young kids. I just don't understand. The world today wants division. The world today wants harsh language, people not to compromise. Compromise has become a bad word. Um, Conflict and division has been central to Trump's political project since he first came down the escalator. Um, it, it was a reaction to Obama's worldview that we should all be unified and that the world should be more integrated and cooperating with each other. Um, 20,000 people today in Berlin were ordered evacuated because two unexploded massive ordnances were discovered. And when I was walking in Omaha and Normandy, walking in Normandy by the Omaha beach, I was wondering, they had these huge craters for when the airplanes dropped these bombs. They're still there, these massive 25 and 30 feet deep craters. Can you imagine how deep they were then? I wondered if there's unexploded ordnances throughout that area in France. John Thune, who is the majority leader of the Senate, who is a traditionalist, okay, when he was appointed or named by his Republican senators in January, he said, I will keep the traditions of the Senate. But unfortunately, he's going to eat those words. This is the third time this year that Thune had steered around the Senate precedent of filibuster and requiring 60 votes to advance Trump's priorities. He strayed from his reputation as an institutionalist, and now we are seeing that it's a clear majority vote that's passing a lot of these um, pieces of legislation or political appointments. Um, Ken Dryden, who was a goalie for the Montreal Canadiens, a six-time Stanley Cup champion, he died at 78 years old. He was around when it was Phil Esposito and Bobby Orr and Bobby Clark. Um, just amazing, amazing hockey players that predated Gretzky and Lemieux um, and Connor McDavid. Um, Robert Redford died, 89 years old. The Way We Were, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, um, a heartthrob, a guy that looked young with Paul Newman his whole life. Started the Sundance Film Festival, lived in Utah, big environmentalist. Look, he died. It's sad, but 89 is pretty good. I may sign up for that right now. Although I'm 60, going to be 63, and I'm 63, going to be 64. The closer you get to it, you obviously want that number to go out. But Arch Manning is doing a horrible job at quarterback. So is Kate Klubnik. Uh, Clearly, their preseason hype was too much. Arch Manning either is injured or he's just not that good of a quarterback. Clay Klubnik is not doing a good job for Clemson. Uh, Clemson and USC lost to the Brainiac schools last weekend. USC lost to Vanderbilt. Clemson lost to Georgia Tech. Dabo Sweeney is getting justified criticism. Today he said, "Look, if you don't want me, if you're sick of winning, then maybe I'll leave." Maybe it is time for him to leave. Maybe he needs to go to a job like Florida and see if he could turn that program around. Billy Napier is a horrible coach. Good guy. Was an offensive coordinator at Clemson, went to Southwest Louisiana. He's got the worst losing record when you compare it to the predecessors of Dan Muller, McClellan, some of the other coaches that even Will Muschamp at Florida had a better record. He's going to be fired. DJ Lagway, who is a five-star quarterback that starts for Florida, he's horrible right now, threw 5 picks last week. The word on the street in Columbia is that Beamer is being considered. The Virginia Tech coach is probably going to be fired during the season. Wouldn't surprise me if they make a run after Shane Beamer. I wouldn't begrudge him if he goes back. His parents still live there. His siblings live there. His dad had an incredible legacy there. Ohtani threw 5. Shohei Ohtani threw 5 no-hit innings this week. He hit his 51st home run, which is 2 years in a row he's hit 50 or more home runs. Hasn't been done since 2001 when Alex Rodriguez did it. He said that he's going to play in the outfield in the playoffs, which will enable the Dodgers to have another player. So he's going to pitch, he's going to hit, and he's going to play in the outfield. If he does, then they can have another DH. He is Babe Ruth of our generation. Uh, it's the sweetest swing I've ever seen. His ball just comes off the bat with tremendous velocity. The big dumper, Cal Raleigh, the catcher for the Seattle Mariners, has 56 home runs. He just broke Mickey Mantle's record as having the most home runs by a switch hitter in baseball. Um, Kyle Schwarber for the Phillies, my Phillies, yay. He has 53 home runs. Aaron Judge just keeps breaking records. He passed Yogi Berra this week for now third on the most home runs as a Yankee. He's an amazing guy. He's hitting 328. Um, he is Paul Bunyan, and he is just as good or close to as good as Otani. A really good guy, great pitcher, Clayton Kershaw, who has 222 victories, but more than 3,000 strikeouts, 37 years old. He is going to retire at the end of this year. Tremendous, tremendous regular season pitcher. Postseason record is really spotty. He has, I think, like a 13-13 record. Maybe this year he can do something different and go out on a high note. Paige Beckers, the UConn women's basketball player who now plays in Dallas, she won Rookie of the Year. Asia Wilson, our girl from USC, she won Co-Defensive Player of the Year award. She probably will win the MVP award. She's gone deep in the playoffs right now. She averages 23 points a game. Asia Wilson is going to go down as the greatest female basketball player of all time. Even better, I think, than Diana Taurasi. The Commanders are going to move back to Washington, D.C., into RFK Stadium. The City Council of Washington approved $3.8 billion stadium upgrades. I think that's going to be great. I think their name's going to go back to being the Redskins. I think Trump's going to push for that. Denise Richards, I don't know if you're following it. She went back into her house. There were 15 dogs in there. She got her clothes out. She's fighting with her ex-husband. Lived like a hoarder. You're seeing Britney Spears doing these videos, and in the videos, there's dog poop all over the floor. I mean, these people, who many people look up to, have real issues. Teresa Guiducci, she is not, doesn't look like going to be on the Real Housewives of New Jersey this year. She held out hope that she could make up with Melissa Gorga and her brother. They said that it's not going to happen. Um, what I want to talk about now is the field goals. We're seeing field goals because the footballs are so filled with air. We're seeing field goals of 60 to 65 yards to 55 to 65 yards every day. And these guys are 35 for 38 throughout the season, or they're 10 for 10 above 50 yards. The field goal has gotten ridiculous because they start the ball in the 35 in the NFL. That means they only have to have basically one pass and they can hit a 70-yard field goal. I think we're going to soon see 70-yard, 80-yard field goals. I think Justin Tucker has the record right now. I think they should deaden the ball. They should let some air out of the ball or shrink the uprights. Field goals are becoming too automatic. I say that with the golf ball. They're hitting the golf ball now 350 yards. When Nicholas won all his tournaments, the driving distance was 265. When they went to Metalwoods, Davis Love and Freddie Couple were driving at 280. Then John Daly came along and it went over 300. I think they should deaden the golf ball. You can't make these traditional iconic golf courses any longer. There's not enough real estate to do it. So they should go to a uniform golf ball, just like you have in the basketball, just like you have in tennis, and they should deaden the golf ball. Baseballs also are too hot right now. We're seeing it with the home runs this year. They juice up the balls to get interested in it. Chicks dig the long ball. You ever hear that saying? 3 points are becoming too ubiquitous in the NBA. They should move the line out even further. So I want to talk about my trip to France in closing. It was incredible. Um, the French people in the coast by Normandy really do appreciate Americans. They were so nice to us. I felt like I was treated like when I go to Ireland or Scotland. They just treat you so nice. When we got to Paris, they were nasty to us. Waiters were nasty to us. They tried to charge us with butter. They made us sit there. In fact, I said to one person, "Hey guys, if it wasn't for us, y'all be speaking German." Um, it is Paris, the most beautiful city. We went to Napoleon's tomb. We went to the Louvre. We saw Venus de Milo. We saw the Wings of Victory. We saw Mona Lisa. Um, we went to Rodin's museum and saw the Gates of Hell, The Thinker. We went to Museum Orsay. We went to Versailles. It's so opulent, and you realize why these citizens beheaded their leaders because they stole so much tax money to build these ridiculous palatial palaces. And there was no internet back then. There was no photography. There was no newspaper. So people in the middle of the country could never realize that uh, all this money was going to build these just insane palaces. It would have to be by word of mouth. And we had the greatest time. The food was great. I learned a lot about World War II. I was so moved by the bravery of our young soldiers that gave their life. When we went through the cemetery, I just was brought me to my knees. We stayed and watched them bring the flag down. It was a beautiful ceremony. There's a non-denominational chapel on the cemetery itself. This land was given to the United States by the France. It's 220 acres. Over 9,000 soldiers are buried in there, 149 Jews, two generals, Roosevelt's son. So that was it was a trip of a lifetime. We had a great time. Nobody got sick. Um, we all got along. It was just, I loved being there with my wife. She did a great job setting up. I came back more tired than when I went because she had us constantly on the go. It was a great, great trip. Um, wow, I've been gone for 58 minutes. Let's just go through some other things here. Um, Pat Silva said, great job. Hey, Pat. Shaquille Oatmeal said ABC was wrong. I totally agree. Kelly Elliott said we're living in an authoritative regime. Um, she said we have a pedophile in the White House. I'm not sure I agree with that. Shaquille said she can't stand Trump. Sarah Wood said we need a Trump in the UK. They're going to get one. Nigel Farad, I believe. Kelly Elliott said, we're marching against this administration. They don't care. The GOP is dysfunctional and complacent. Bobby Kennedy knows nothing about medical issues. Look at the measles outbreak in Texas. I agree. Linda said, I'm old enough to remember how awful it was before vaccines. My generation got vaccinated against smallpox and wiped it out. She said, just listen to Bobby Kennedy. I'm not taking healthcare advice from these incompetent people. I totally agree. Bobby Kennedy wants us to eat tallow fat instead of butter. These people are killing people, and that's their goal. Kash Patel is the most disrespectful person I've ever seen testify on the Hill. Great stuff. Linda Emmerich said, glad I enjoyed my trip. She said, Limerick said, RFK is an embarrassment. I have so much more to talk about, but I will save that for next week. And I so apologize that I went on for an hour. Look, I even got hoarse. Everybody have a great weekend. Thanks.